Long ago, Ella's life was defined by the rolling hills of her home and a father who prioritized her more than anything in the world. He left her with a foundational instruction to have courage and remain kind, regardless of the circumstances she might face. These words were tested early. When Ella was young, her mother passed away, followed years later by her father, who fell ill on a journey and never returned. Ella was left with Lady Voss and her 2 daughters. The household's warmth was replaced by a cold authority that offered Ella no affection. Ella's mantra was now her only defense, as she faced the challenge of surviving in a home where love had been systematically removed. Her world shrank to the dimensions of a bare attic. She slept on a straw mattress by a frosty window, separated from her past life. Every morning before sunrise, she performed the labor of the entire house, lighting the fires, drawing the water, and cooking for stepsisters who offered only constant complaints. Ella chose a path of silent resilience. She responded to her family's insults by setting down the teapot gently and returning to her work without a word of malice. The garden became her sanctuary. She practiced the kindness her father spoke of, treating the birds as trusted friends and sharing her thoughts. Ella demonstrated that strength lies in the refusal to be hardened by a harsh environment. She maintained a warm heart, even as her world grew colder. This dynamic was interrupted by a royal invitation. Every young woman in the kingdom was summoned to the palace, so the prince might find a bride. Lady Voss presented a towering list of chores, creating a workload no person could complete alone, but the birds Ella befriended arrived to help. They swarmed the list, crossing off icons until every task was finished. Despite Ella's success, her stepsisters physically destroyed her mother's gown, tearing the ribbons and seams, while Lady Voss watched without intervening. This calculated cruelty pushed Ella to her limit. As the carriages departed, she sat alone in the garden and wept, her hope finally exhausted. At this moment of despair, a golden light began to glow in the garden. From the swirling energy stepped a fairy godmother, ready to intervene. This magic acted as a direct response to Ella's long history of kindness. The universe was finally acknowledging the character she had maintained in the dark. With a tap of a wand, a pumpkin became a carriage, and Ella was dressed in midnight blue and silver. She was given one strict condition: the magic would vanish at the stroke of midnight. Inside the palace, Prince Dorian found the formal evening tedious. That changed when Ella entered the room. Her calm, bright presence drew him away from the crowd immediately. They spent the evening discussing things that mattered to them: gardens, the stars, and the belief that being kind costs nothing. They connected through shared values rather than social standing. The clock began to strike, forcing Ella to flee. She ran down the steps, leaving a single glass slipper on the stone. The prince was captivated by Ella's substance. He was moved by the person he had spoken with, far more than the finery she wore. The prince began a kingdom-wide search the next morning. He was looking for the specific woman who fit the slipper, hoping it would lead him back to the person he had met. The stepsisters approached the search with desperation. They pushed and strained until their faces went red, trying to force a fit that wasn't there. When the prince asked if anyone else lived in the house, Lady Voss tried to hide Ella, calling her a girl of no consequence. However, the prince insisted on honoring the royal decree that every woman be tested. Ella sat in the chair, and the glass slipper slid onto her foot as if it had been made for her. To confirm her identity, Ella reached into her apron and produced the matching slipper. She proved who she was through her own foresight, requiring no further magic. The magical evening provided the opportunity, but Ella's own preparation and identity secured her future. As she prepared to leave for the palace, Ella looked at her stepfamily with kindness. She chose to offer forgiveness for the years of mistreatment, refusing to carry their bitterness into her new life. At the palace, the king welcomed her with a literal embrace, recognizing her as the influence his home had been missing. Ella brought the habits of the garden to the throne. By actively listening to the common people and modeling the empathy she had practiced her whole life, she ensured the kingdom felt the impact of her character.
Her life with the prince was grounded in the values they shared. They lived happily because they continued to prioritize the courage and kindness that brought them together. When the world feels unkind, remember that your response is your greatest strength. Choose to have courage and always be kind.